Spring is in the air, chipheads. Welcome back to Intel Ohio 1 and greetings from New Albany, Ohio. Not only is spring in the air, so is record high pollen counts. We're going to fly the drone over Intel this morning, and well, there's been quite a bit of progress since we were last on site. And now coming into view, the first of the two fabs under construction, surrounded by all the yellow and red cranes. And we're going to go ahead and take a closer look. Tremendous progress now. They are up to the clean room floor, and we'll see a tile being placed later on in today's video. Really punched in with the camera now to see all of that detail. All of the concrete columns, slabs, each one hoisted into place by the massive cranes. So we'll go ahead and go back to that wide shot again. In the foreground, the bathtub of the office building has been completed, and now you can see quite a bit of structure has been erected since we were last on site. I expect this building to come together very quickly. And we'll pull back for a nice reveal. Just an intricate amount of detail and complexity that goes into a modern day gigafab. So I'm going to go ahead and gain some altitude here to give a unique perspective. The yellow crane in the left foreground is the Liebherr 12500. To the local school kids, it's affectionately known as Ms. Armstrong, and keen observers will see that there is a load attached to the crane. So I'm going to go ahead and orbit around the site, and just for a sense of perspective, the drone is probably 400 feet in the air and maybe a quarter of a mile back away from where the actual cranes are. Really an excellent day to fly, great visibility. You can see just how pan-flat this part of Ohio is. And the trees are starting to bud out and do their thing after a long, gray, denuded winter. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. In the foreground, the yellow crane is a Liebherr 11350. One of two of that size crawler crane on site, in addition to Ms. Armstrong, probably the second largest crawler crane in the world. Here you can see good detail of the wings of the clean room area. And here we'll take a view of all of the supporting materials that have been stockpiled on site. Hundreds of concrete columns have been prepared. And now you can see one of the yard trucks pulling a concrete slab over to the job site where it can be hoisted by one of those aforementioned cranes. And as the yard truck reaches the proverbial fork in the road, we're going to go ahead and just orbit so that the cranes are in view. Again, just a staggering amount of complexity goes into constructing today's modern gigafabs. And so while we wait, we're going to go ahead and gain some altitude and go take a closer look at the commodities infrastructure that supports the fab and take a look at the progress that's been made since we were last on site. To create an environment pure enough for atomic scale manufacturing, a semiconductor fab must manage an astonishing array of critical materials. Gases, ultra-pure liquids, specialty chemicals, all must be prepared, purified, and delivered with extreme precision. That's what this infrastructure will support. Tremendous progress on the building's superstructure here as all of these white columns and beams have been erected on site using that red crawler crane. And now with the wide shot and the bright light, you can see just the scale is tremendous. 926 acres here in New Albany, Ohio. When I first started flying some 10 months ago, there really wasn't much to look at. But now the site has tremendous texture and complexity. Fascinating, staggering amount of logistics goes into building such a site. So we'll take a quick pan to the right to give you more perspective, and coming into view after the commodities infrastructure is the laydown yard. Here you'll see all the materials that have been stockpiled on site, and we'll get a closer view here in a moment. The four long white rectangles are cold boxes or air separation units, which process ambient air into its constituent gases: nitrogen, oxygen, argon. Having them on site obviates the need for countless tanker trucks to be pulling up to the facility once it's in operation. So we're going to gain a little altitude here to get a perspective of the load that is attached to Ms. Armstrong. And you can see the block and then the load spanner, and then it is connected with the various ties. These concrete slabs, precast concrete slabs, are absolutely massive. Humans for scale. And we'll go ahead and orbit around to pursue some better light so you can make out that detail. And now the load is finally in the air. You can see it rotating. And as I pull back the drone here, it's relatively quiet on site. It is a Sunday morning. I did hear from a viewer that that is when these large cranes are in action. It makes sense, quite frankly. There are fewer workers beneath these multi-ton concrete slabs as they are flying through the air. The weather also was gorgeous this morning. Light winds. Excellent visibility. So we're going to go ahead and follow along as this concrete slab is lifted into place. So as the crane starts to slew, we're gonna lay down some music. All footage has been sped up by a factor of 4. Enjoy. And as the precast concrete slab reaches its destination, the workers are there to help guide it into position. Again, this is a precast concrete slab. I've seen various information that puts the dimensions of this at approximately 20 by 20 feet. But any confirmation on that would be much appreciated. So we're going to orbit to the right. Just a dizzying number of cranes, several crawlers, and then all of the tower cranes there in red. So we'll make a quick pan of the entire job site. Sorry for the sped up footage. If you see something of interest, please let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to focus on it on an upcoming flight. And after being little more than a hole in the ground for several months, at least 6 or 8, the office building is really starting to come along and finally rising above ground level. Here's a closer view of the Commodities infrastructure as we pan back left. For fellow drone pilots who film, I've started using some ND filters as we get to better light and away from the Ohio gray. Let me know what you think. And in the lower left, no, those are not ants, those are humans. I believe there's a concrete pour going on. You can see both the white nozzle and coming in from off screen at left, a red one as well. We previously saw concrete trucks backing up to that pump. And I've surely misplaced the stat, but I believe I saw that there's been enough concrete poured for 4 Ohio stadiums. That's affectionately known as the Horseshoe here in Columbus, Ohio. Just again, a monumental amount of concrete has been put down on site. And now you can see that the concrete slab appears to be in its final position. And very shortly it will be disconnected and the crane will pick up another one and the process will continue. I really like these fast orbits across the site. The crane in the foreground gives a lovely parallax effect, but really helps the viewer appreciate the size and scale of what you're seeing. I really recommend that you watch this on a TV instead of a mobile device. There's infinite detail. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the drone down. You can finally see the horizon, let the shot breathe a bit. The farm in the background with its silos used to be the tallest thing on site. Very soon it will be those air separation handlers as soon as those are erected. And so now I'm going to orbit back to the left with the horizon in view. This will be the shot for all the cranophiles that follow from around the world. Truly a good time to be a crane operator, if that's your gig. And so I've focused a lot on the first fab, obviously, as it has quite a bit going on, but I did want to orbit here what doesn't really look like much, but is a second fab that is under construction. And while it looks like just a slab of concrete, I assure you that it is not. In previous videos, you can go back to see what is the fab basement, which is quite a very large concrete installation. If you know more about what goes on in a fab basement, I'd love to know. And so I'm going to tilt the drone down. In the background, you can see all of the hundreds of additional precast concrete slabs awaiting installation. And as we turn to the commodities infrastructure, we take a closer look at everything that is being prepared. I'm sure that these buildings house several large pumps that deal with the various liquids and gases. And we'll sweep from right to left. Parking lot very empty this Sunday morning. I think there's about spaces for 800 vehicles. It is usually very full during the weekdays and Saturdays. Dear viewer, please forgive the grainy footage here. I am digitally zoomed in and trying to spy what is in the back 40 of the Intel site. This is very far away from the drone, probably a mile and a half. Can't really make out what I'm seeing. Obviously, a few more of those concrete slabs. And as I dolly the drone to the right, coming into view, you will see some concrete infrastructure and cranes. I do know that there is a wastewater management facility in that vicinity, but no particular details on what that really entails. Here are some of the general offices and administration. Obligatory shot of the water tower. Wouldn't be a Luca Tiki video without it. And thanks so much as you go on this ride along on the 27th of April. Thanks for watching.